The alarm system screamed across the deep space monitoring station, pulling Commander Thalrix from his rest cycle. He rushed to the central control room, where his team had gathered around the main display screen. The readings made no sense. Someone was broadcasting their exact location across the galaxy without any encryption or protection. Dr. Velen stood at the console, his 6 appendages moving rapidly across the controls. His face showed confusion and concern. He had spent 3 decades studying intelligent species across the galaxy, but he had never seen anything like this before. The broadcasts originated from a small blue planet in an unremarkable star system. The locals called it Earth. Thalrix examined the data with growing alarm. The electromagnetic signals had been traveling through space for over 100 of their standard years. They contained everything a hostile force would need to find and attack this world. Mathematical sequences that revealed the planet's location, chemical compositions of their atmosphere, even visual recordings of their cities and population centers. The team worked through the night cycle, deciphering more of the transmissions. What they found disturbed them even more. These humans, as they called themselves, had deliberately sent stronger signals into space. Messages that included detailed star charts showing exactly where their planet was located. They had attached golden discs to their primitive spacecraft, filled with sounds and images from their world. It was like watching someone stand in a dark forest and scream their location to every predator within hearing range. Velen pulled up the content of these broadcasts on the viewing screens. The team watched in silence. The humans had sent music, greetings in multiple languages and mathematical formulas. But the other broadcasts were stranger. They contained fictional stories about humans fighting off alien invasions. Television programs showing humans defeating technologically superior enemies. Movies about first contact scenarios where humans always emerged victorious. Thalrix felt a chill run through his body. Either these humans had no idea how dangerous the galaxy really was, or they knew something the Council did not. Every intelligent species in known space learned the same lesson early in their development. You hide. You encrypt your signals. You make yourself as small and invisible as possible until you have the strength to defend yourself. These humans were doing the opposite. The commander contacted the Galactic Council immediately. The emergency session convened within hours. Representatives from 200 species gathered in the Grand Chamber, their forms ranging from aquatic beings in mobile water, tanks to energy-based entities that flickered in and out of visible light. The mood was tense. Counselor Vreck spoke first, his crystalline body refracting the chamber lights into rainbow patterns. He represented one of the oldest species in the Council, civilization that had survived by being cautious and hidden for millions of years. His words were sharp and clear. These broadcasts would reach hostile territories within the next cycle. Predatory species that viewed other civilizations as resources to be harvested. Species that had destroyed countless worlds. The debate lasted for hours. Some council members argued for immediate intervention. They should warn these humans about the danger they had created for themselves. Others insisted on quarantine. Seal off the sector and let these reckless beings face the consequences of their actions. A few suggested something darker. These humans might be working with one of the hostile empires, deliberately drawing the Council's attention away from something more dangerous. Velen presented his analysis to the Assembly. He had studied the human broadcasts in detail. Their technology was primitive. They still used chemical rockets to escape their planet's gravity well. Their weapons were based on nuclear fission, barely capable of scratching modern shield systems. They had not even achieved faster-than-light travel. By every measure, they were defenseless children playing with matches and weapons. Depot? But something bothered Velen. The humans seemed aware of the dangers. Their fictional content was filled with hostile alien invasions. They had thought about this scenario extensively. They had imagined every possible first contact situation, from peaceful exchange to total warfare. Why would a species spend so much time thinking about alien threats and then broadcast their location to the entire galaxy? Commander Thalrix proposed a solution that gained support from the majority. Send a covert reconnaissance mission to Earth. Observe without being seen. Determine their actual capabilities and intentions. Figure out if these humans were ignorant victims or something far more dangerous. The mission would need to be fast. The broadcasts had already been detected by several independent monitoring stations. It was only a matter of time before someone with hostile intentions reached that blue planet, the council voted. The motion passed. Thalrix would assemble a small team for the reconnaissance mission. They would use the council's most advanced stealth technology. Get in, observe, get out. Simple and clean. As the session ended, Velen approached the commander privately. His voice was low and troubled. He had been reviewing historical records while the council debated. Something in the archives had caught his attention. 3 separate civilizations had vanished from council records over the past 1,000 years. Each had been detected near that region of space before disappearing. Each had been searching for new worlds to conquer or resources to harvest. Thalrix asked the obvious question. Could they have destroyed each other? Space was dangerous. Civilizations fell for many reasons. Velen showed him the data. All 3 had disappeared within a short time of each other. All 3 had last transmitted from the same general region where Earth was located. All 3 had been powerful military forces, capable of crushing primitive civilizations with ease. The probability of them all coincidentally vanishing in the same area was astronomically small. The commander felt that chill again. He authorized Velen to continue his research. If there was a connection between Earth and these vanished civilizations, they needed to know before sending anyone near that system. As Thalrix left the council chambers, he looked at the star charts displayed on the walls. The galaxy was vast and full of mysteries. Most species never left their home systems. Those that did learned to be careful, to watch and wait, to hide until they were strong enough to survive. But somewhere out there, on a small blue planet orbiting an average yellow star, a species was doing the exact opposite. They were shouting into the darkness, telling everyone where to find them, inviting contact. It went against every survival instinct, every lesson learned by spacefaring civilizations. It was either the action of fools who would soon be extinct, or the confidence of something that had no reason to fear the dark. Thalrix hoped it was the former. Because if it was the latter, the council needed to know what these humans knew. What made them so certain they could advertise their location without fear? What was protecting them? Or worse, what were they protecting? The reconnaissance mission would launch within the week. Whatever answers waited near Earth, the council would find them. Before something else did. The scout ship moved through space like a shadow, its stealth systems bending light and radiation around its hull. Inside the cramped cockpit, pilot Jiho kept his eyes fixed on the navigation display. They had been traveling for 3 cycles, and the yellow star called Sol was finally visible ahead. Somewhere around that star was Earth, and hopefully, answers. Mina checked the security systems for the 10th time that hour. As the mission's security officer, every instinct told her this was wrong. They were flying blind into unknown territory, chasing ghosts and mysteries. But orders were orders. She glanced at the weapons panel. Their ship carried enough firepower to level a small city, but against an unknown threat, it might as well be throwing rocks. Deho sat at the communications station, his headset covering both of his auditory organs. As the team's communications specialist, his job was to intercept and analyze any signals coming from Earth. The closer they got, the more transmissions he picked up. Radio waves, television broadcasts, digital data streams. The humans were incredibly noisy. It was like listening to someone have 1,000 conversations at once. Jiho brought the ship to a stop just beyond the orbit of Earth's moon. From here, they had a clear view of the blue and white planet below. It looked peaceful, beautiful even. Swirling clouds covered vast oceans. Green and brown landmasses peeked through the white. City lights dotted the dark side of the planet like scattered stars. Nothing about it suggested danger. Mina activated the long-range scanners. The readings came back immediately. No orbital defense platforms. No weapons satellites. No energy shields protecting the planet. A few primitive space stations circled in low orbit, barely held together with outdated technology. She ran the scans 3 more times, convinced she had missed something. But the results were the same. This planet was completely defenseless. Deho started intercepting military communications. He routed them through the translation matrix, and within minutes, the computer had learned enough of the human languages to provide accurate translations. What he heard made him sit up straight. The humans had detected their ship. Somehow, with their primitive sensors, they had picked up the scout vessel's presence. Jiho immediately checked the stealth systems. Everything was working perfectly. Their ship should have been invisible to sensors 100 times more advanced than anything Earth possessed. Yet the human military channels were buzzing with activity. Reports of an unidentified object near lunar orbit. Orders to track its movements. Discussions about whether to make contact. Mina pulled up the military facility locations on her display. The planet was covered in them. Radar installations pointed toward the sky. Missile silos scattered across multiple continents. Underground command centers buried deep in mountains. For a species that couldn't defend itself against a real galactic threat, they had certainly prepared to try. Deho dove deeper into Earth's communication networks. The humans had something called the Internet, a global information system that connected billions of their devices. He tapped into it easily. Their security protocols were laughably simple. Within hours, he had access to military databases, scientific research, and cultural archives. What he found disturbed him more than any weapons system could. The humans had files upon files about alien contact scenarios. Every branch of their military had detailed plans for defending against extraterrestrial invasion. Their scientists had published thousands of papers about the likelihood of hostile alien life. Their entertainment industry had created countless scenarios showing humans fighting off alien attackers. But it was more than just preparation. Deho pulled up the historical records of their space program. In the 20th century, humans had deliberately sent messages into space. The Pioneer plaques, the Voyager Golden Records, the Arecibo message. Each one contained detailed information about Earth's location, human biology, and the chemical composition of their atmosphere. They had done this knowing, according to their own scientific papers, that it might attract hostile attention. Mina reviewed the weapons data Deho had extracted. Nuclear missiles, chemical weapons, biological agents, primitive kinetic weapons? Nothing that could threaten a council ship. She ran combat simulations. A single council frigate could neutralize every weapon on Earth within minutes. The planet would be helpless. Yet something nagged at her. She pulled up the defensive protocols the humans had created. They were detailed, comprehensive. The plans assumed the enemy would have faster-than-light travel, energy weapons, and advanced shield technology. The humans knew exactly what they would be facing. They had thought about this extensively. So why did they make themselves so easy to find? Jiho plotted the trajectories of Earth's satellites and space probes. Dozens of them pointed outward, away from the planet. Radio telescopes scanning the heavens. Spacecraft carrying messages to other stars. It was deliberate, intentional. The humans wanted to be discovered. Deho made a discovery that changed everything. He had been reviewing historical communication records when he found something strange. 20 years ago, multiple space agencies had worked together to send a powerful message toward a cluster of stars. The message contained mathematical formulas, images of humans, and the exact location of Earth in the galaxy. But what caught his attention was the internal communication between the scientists involved. They had argued about the danger. Many scientists had protested, saying it was too risky to advertise their location. But the project had moved forward anyway, with support from multiple governments. As if there was something they knew that made the risk acceptable. As if they were protected, the team compiled their findings and sent an encrypted report back to Commander Thalrix. The data was clear. Earth had no meaningful defenses. Its people were technologically primitive. Their weapons were useless against any serious galactic threat. By every logical measure, they should have been conquered or destroyed long ago. But Deho had found one more thing. He pulled up the records carefully, making sure he understood them correctly before sharing with the team. 3 times in the past 1,000 Earth years, The humans had detected unusual activity near their solar system, ships appearing at the edge of their detection range, then disappearing. Each time, the humans had noted it in their classified files. Each time, they had done nothing except continue broadcasting their location. Mina asked the question they were all thinking. What happened to those ships? The team checked the Council's historical records. 3 major military expeditions had been launched toward this region of space over the past millennium. 3 powerful fleets, belonging to aggressive civilizations that viewed other species as prey. All 3 had been headed toward the Sol system. All 3 had vanished without sending a single message back to their homeworlds. Jiho felt his blood run cold. 15,000 warships, planet cracker weapons, technology designed to break entire worlds and harvest their resources, all gone. Not destroyed in battle, because there had been no distress signals, no debris fields, nothing. They had simply ceased to exist, and the humans kept broadcasting, kept sending their location into space, kept inviting contact. Mina made a decision. They needed to leave. Now, whatever was happening in this system, whatever had destroyed those fleets, they had learned enough. This was beyond a simple reconnaissance mission. But Deho stopped her. He had found something else in the human databases. Ancient ruins discovered under Earth's oceans. Structures that predated human civilization. Technology that the humans couldn't understand or replicate. The files were heavily classified, but they existed. The humans knew they weren't alone. They knew something was here in their system, watching them. The team sent another report to the commander. This time, with a recommendation. Earth wasn't bait set by humans. The humans were the bait. They were advertising their location because something wanted them to. Something that had destroyed 3 military fleets without leaving a trace. Something that had been in the Sol system for a very long time, as the scout ship prepared to return to Council space. Giho took one last look at the blue planet below. Billions of humans going about their lives, completely unaware that they were living inside someone else's trap. The question wasn't why humans broadcast their location. The question was what they had agreed to in exchange for protection, and what happened to civilizations foolish enough to answer the invitation. Analyst Haijin sat in the Council's central archive, surrounded by floating displays of data that stretched back millions of years. She had been assigned to conduct a full historical analysis of humanity's broadcasts, and the more she dug, the less sense it made. On the surface, the messages seemed straightforward, humans introducing themselves to the galaxy, but there were layers underneath, patterns that suggested something far more calculated. She pulled up the first major broadcast. The Arecibo message sent in 1974 by Earth's calendar. It contained basic information about humans, their planet, and their solar system. Simple enough. But Haijin noticed something strange in the mathematical sequences. They weren't just showing the humans understood mathematics. They were demonstrating specific concepts about gravity, orbital mechanics, and energy distribution. The kind of information a military strategist would need to plan an invasion. The Voyager Golden Records were even more detailed. Greetings in 55 languages. Music from different cultures. Images of human anatomy, human cities, and human technology. But buried in the data were precise measurements of Earth's gravitational field, atmospheric density, and magnetic field strength. Everything an attacking force would need to calculate. Optimal entry vectors and weapon targeting. Haijin cross-referenced this with standard invasion protocols used by known hostile civilizations. The information matched perfectly. It was as if the humans had studied how predatory species planned their attacks and then provided exactly what those species would need. The broadcasts weren't random cultural sharing. They were carefully constructed intelligence packages. She moved to the more recent broadcasts. In 2008, humans had sent a message toward a star system 40 light-years away. The message included representations of human DNA, mathematical formulas, and detailed astronomical data. Again, the same pattern. Cultural information on the surface, tactical intelligence underneath. But why? Haijin created a timeline of all Earth's major broadcasts and marked them against galactic historical events. Then she saw it. The timing wasn't random. Each major broadcast occurred shortly after aggressive civilizations had begun expanding in Earth's direction. The messages weren't being sent blindly into space. They were being aimed at specific regions where hostile forces were active. She brought her findings to Commander Thalrix and Dr. Velen. They reviewed her work in silence. The implications were staggering. Either humans had access to intelligence networks they shouldn't possess, or something was guiding them, telling them when to broadcast and where to aim their messages. Velen began his own investigation. He accessed the restricted archives, the files that contained information about extinct civilizations. The Council kept detailed records of every spacefaring species that had ever been detected, even those that no longer existed. He searched for any connection to the Sol system. The first match appeared within hours. The Krell Empire, a massive military power that had dominated a sector of space 1,200 years ago. They had been expanding aggressively, consuming worlds, and harvesting their resources. Council records showed their scouts had detected Earth's early radio broadcasts. The Krell had dispatched a conquest fleet of over 5,000 ships. The fleet's last transmission came from the edge of the Sol system. They reported detecting the blue planet and beginning their approach. Then nothing. No distress signals, no battle reports, no debris fields ever found. The entire fleet simply vanished. The Krell Empire, deprived of its primary military force, collapsed within a generation. Velen found the second match. The Sorrow Collective, a hive mind species that absorbed other civilizations into their consciousness. 800 years ago, they detected Earth's broadcasts and sent a massive seed ship, carrying millions of their kind, to claim the planet. Council listening posts picked up their final transmission as they entered the Sol system. Then silence. The collective sent 3 more ships to investigate. All 3 vanished at the same location, just beyond the orbit of a planet the humans called Neptune. The third match chilled Velen to his core. The Void Reapers. Not a civilization in the traditional sense, but a fleet of automated war machines left behind by a long-dead species. They wandered the galaxy, destroying any signs of intelligent life they encountered. 400 years ago, they detected Earth's electromagnetic emissions. 200 Reaper ships, each capable of sterilizing a planet's surface, converged on the Sol system. The Council had monitored their approach with relief. The Reapers would eliminate what they assumed was a reckless young civilization, and the galaxy would have one less unpredictable element. But the Reapers never emerged from the Sol system. Council ships sent to investigate found nothing. No Reapers. No debris, just empty space, and Earth's broadcast continuing as if nothing had happened. Thalrix called an emergency meeting with the Council's military command. General Morvik, a veteran of countless conflicts, reviewed the data with his tactical team. They ran simulations, analyzed weapon capabilities, and calculated combat scenarios. The results were impossible. The combined military power of the 3 vanished forces represented over 15,000 warships, multiple planet-destroying weapons, and some of the most advanced military technology ever deployed. The Krell alone could have conquered half the known galaxy if they hadn't vanished. The Void Reapers had never been defeated in direct combat, yet something in the Sol system had eliminated all of them without leaving a trace. No energy signatures. No weapons discharge detected. No wreckage. They had simply ceased to exist. And through it all, Earth's primitive humans had continued broadcasting. Seemingly unaware of the battles being fought around them, Hyjin made another discovery. She had been analyzing the content of human entertainment broadcasts, the fictional stories they sent into space. Many of them featured humans defeating powerful alien invaders. But the details were unsettling. The aliens in these stories used tactics and technologies remarkably similar to those employed by real galactic civilizations. One human movie showed aliens attacking with electromagnetic pulse weapons, the Krell's primary opening strategy. Another story featured a hive mind alien force that assimilated other species, exactly like the Sorrow Collective. A third showed autonomous war machines bent on destroying all life. The void. Reth. It was as if the humans knew, as if they had studied the civilizations that came for them and then broadcast fictional accounts of defeating them. Either an impossible coincidence or a message to the galaxy. We know you're out there. We know what you can do, and we're still here. Ellen pulled up Earth's current broadcasts. They had increased in frequency and power over the past century. The humans were shouting louder into the void. Radio telescopes scanning the heavens. Space probes carrying messages to distant stars. Digital signals streaming into space every second. It wasn't ignorance. It was confidence. Thalric studied the star charts, focusing on the Sol system. It was unremarkable in every way. An average yellow star. 8 planets. One of them harboring a primitive civilization. Nothing that should warrant special attention. Yet it had become a graveyard for some of the galaxy's most powerful military forces. General Morvik asked the question that terrified them all. What if the humans weren't the primary intelligence in that system? What if something else lived there? Something old and powerful, and the humans were under its protection? The broadcasts wouldn't be bait set by humans. They would be bait set by something else, with humanity as the lure. Hyjin found one final piece of evidence. Deep in Earth's classified scientific databases, hidden behind layers of encryption, were references to underwater structures. Ancient technology found buried in Earth's oceans and beneath its ice caps. The files were incomplete, heavily redacted, but they existed. The humans had found something. Something that predated their civilization by millions of years. The team assembled their full report for the Council. The conclusion was inescapable. Earth's broadcasts were not the actions of an ignorant species. They were part of a larger pattern that had been operating for over 1,000 years. Hostile civilizations detected the broadcasts, sent forces to conquer Earth, and those forces vanished. Every time, the broadcasts served multiple purposes. They attracted aggressive civilizations, filtering out peaceful ones who would be cautious about contact. They provided tactical information that made the prey seem vulnerable and worth the effort. And they ensured a steady stream of victims for whatever actually protected that system. Thalrix reviewed the report 3 times before forwarding it to the full council. If this analysis was correct, then Earth wasn't in danger. Earth was danger, or more precisely, Earth was the bait in a trap that had been operating successfully for at least a millennium. The question now was whether the Council should warn other civilizations, attempt to quarantine the Sol system, or do nothing and let the trap continue to eliminate the galaxy's most aggressive species. Some Council members would argue the trap was performing a valuable service. Others would demand intervention. Ambassador COX stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel, watching Earth grow larger on the main view screen. Behind his ship, a full military escort of 30 Council warships maintained defensive formation. The Council had decided this would not be a covert mission. They would approach openly, broadcasting peaceful intentions and demanding answers. Whatever protected this world needed to know the Council came in peace. The response from Earth came within minutes of their arrival. Not weapons fire. Not defensive warnings. But enthusiastic greetings in multiple languages. Human transmissions welcomed them to their solar system. They were invited to enter orbit around Earth and send representatives to the surface. It was as if humanity had been waiting for this moment their entire existence. Esioke felt deeply uneasy. The Council's military escort could destroy this planet within the hour. Yet the humans welcomed them like old friends. Either they were incredibly naive or incredibly confident. Given what the Council now knew about this system, Sioke suspected the latter. The diplomatic shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, escorted by primitive human aircraft. SIOCSIOH watched through the windows as cities sprawled below, connected by networks of roads and rails. Millions of humans going about their daily lives. If they were afraid of alien contact, they showed no signs of it. The shuttle landed at a prepared location in a city the humans called Geneva. Thousands of humans waited behind security barriers, many waving and holding signs. Children sat on their parents' shoulders, excited to see alien visitors. News cameras pointed at the shuttle from every angle. This wasn't the behavior of a species meeting aliens for the first time. This was a celebration. Minister Jiwan greeted Seok personally as he emerged from the shuttle. She was a middle-aged human female with sharp eyes and an easy smile. Her words were welcoming, her tone warm. But Seok noticed the armed security forces positioned throughout the area. The subtle way human military officers monitored every movement. Beneath the friendly surface, humanity was watchful. The formal meeting took place in a historic building the humans used for international diplomacy. General Taijin joined Minister Jiwan, along with several scientists and military advisors. They offered food and drink from Earth. They asked questions about council worlds and civilizations. They seemed genuinely delighted to meet alien life. For 2 days, the meetings continued. Tours of human cities, demonstrations of their technology, cultural exchanges. The humans shared their music, art, and history with openness. They asked about galactic politics, trade opportunities, and scientific cooperation. Nothing about their behavior suggested they knew the danger they had created for themselves. But on the 3rd day, Seok decided to confront the truth. In a private meeting with only Minister Giwan and General Taijin present, he asked about the missing fleets. The Krell, the Sorrow Collective, the Void Reapers. 3 massive military forces that had entered this system and vanished without a trace. The room went quiet. Minister Guan's smile faded. Her eyes remained fixed on Seok's face, showing no emotion. When she spoke, her voice was carefully neutral. What fleets? SEOC provided the data, dates, estimated fleet sizes, last known transmissions. Over 15,000 warships had disappeared in this system over the past millennium. The council wanted to know what happened to them. General Taijin leaned forward. He was older than Jiwan, his hair gray, his face marked with the lines of someone who had spent years making difficult decisions. His response was simple and terrifying. We didn't destroy those fleets. They never reached Earth. Seok felt his blood run cold. If the humans didn't destroy the fleets, then what did? Taijin stood and walked to a wall display. He pulled up images of Earth's solar system. 9 planets orbiting a yellow star, asteroid belts, ice clouds at the edge. An unremarkable system in every way. Except, as Taijin explained, it wasn't. The first hostile fleet had arrived over 1,000 years ago. Primitive humans on Earth had barely developed agriculture. They had no space travel, no electricity, no understanding that other worlds existed. The Krell fleet entered the solar system, intending to harvest Earth's resources and enslave its population. The fleet made it past Neptune, past Uranus, past Saturn. They were days away from Earth when they simply stopped transmitting. Other Krell ships sent to investigate found nothing. No debris, no escape pods. No signs of battle, just empty space where 5,000 warships should have been. The same pattern repeated with the Sorrow Collective. Their seed ship and all investigation vessels vanished between Jupiter and Earth. The Void Reapers made it even closer, reaching the orbit of Mars before they ceased to exist. Each time, something prevented the hostile forces from reaching Earth. Each time, humanity remained unaware of the battle for their survival, but that changed 200 years ago. Human technology advanced enough to detect anomalies in their solar system. Strange energy readings, gravitational fluctuations that didn't match known physics. Objects moving in ways that violated their understanding of how things should work. They began to investigate. Seok demanded to see the evidence. Minister Giwan granted permission with a simple condition. What the council was about to learn was classified at the highest levels. No more than 20 humans on Earth knew the full truth. If the council wanted answers, they had to understand they were entering dangerous territory. They traveled by aircraft to a secure facility built into a mountain. The security was extensive. Multiple checkpoints, biometric scans, armed guards. Dr. Sumin met them inside. She was a xenarchaeologist, a scientist who studied alien civilizations. Her specialty was ancient technology. She had spent her career studying what, lay hidden in Earth's solar system. She showed them artifacts recovered from the ocean floor. Structures buried under kilometers of ice in Antarctica. Technology that predated human civilization by millions of years. The materials were not from Earth. The designs followed no human logic, and they still functioned, though humans had no idea how. Sumin explained what her team had discovered. Long before humans evolved, something else had been here. A civilization so advanced that council technology looked primitive by comparison. They had built structures throughout the Sol system. On Earth, on the Moon, on Mars, beneath the ice of Europa. Even in the asteroid belt. A network of installations that served a purpose humans could only guess at. The humans called them the precursors. There was no evidence of what they looked like, where they came from, or why they chose this system. But the artifacts they left behind contained power sources that still worked after millions of years. Materials that could not be damaged by any weapon humans could devise. In defensive systems that apparently still protected their territory, SIOC examined the artifacts. Through protective barriers, they were beautiful in a way that defied description. Geometric patterns that seemed to shift when viewed from different angles. Surfaces that reflected light in impossible ways. Even dormant and inactive, they radiated a sense of immense power. Dr. Sumin showed them the underwater structure discovered 30 years ago. It was massive, larger than a human city, built from materials that human technology couldn't analyze. And it was active. Sensors detected energy flowing through it in patterns that resembled information processing, as if something inside was still thinking, still operating. Millions of years after it was built, General Taijin revealed what the human military had concluded. The defensive systems of the precursors remained operational. When hostile forces entered the solar system with violent intent, something identified them as threats and eliminated them. Not with weapons humans could understand. Not with battles that left evidence. The hostile ships simply ceased to exist, removed from reality in ways that violated physics. SIOC asked the obvious question. Why did the precursors protect humanity? What made this species special? Sumin answered honestly. They didn't know. The artifacts contained information humanity couldn't decode. The structures followed designs humanity couldn't comprehend. But the pattern was clear. As long as humans remained on Earth and in their solar system, something protected them from external threats. And the protection was absolute. Minister Jiwan explained the decision humanity had made once they understood the truth. They could hide, stop broadcasting, try to remain invisible, and hope the protection continued. Or they could accept their role in whatever larger design the precursors had created. They chose acceptance. The broadcasts weren't mistakes. They were acknowledgments. Humanity knew they were protected. They knew something ancient and powerful claimed their solar system, and they chose to work with that reality rather than against it. The broadcasts served multiple purposes. They attracted hostile civilizations, drawing them toward the Sol system. They filtered out peaceful species who would be cautious and respectful, and they ensured that the galaxy's most aggressive, violent civilizations came to this system, where something waited to remove them permanently. SIOC understood with sudden clarity. Earth wasn't in danger. Earth was a weapon, or more precisely, the bait in a weapon that had been operating for at least 1,000 years. Every aggressive civilization that answered humanity's invitation never returned. The galaxy was being cleaned of its most dangerous species, and humanity had chosen to assist in the process. The council chamber was silent as Ambassador SIOC finished his report. 200 species watched the recordings from Earth, with expressions ranging from fear to fascination. The artifacts, the underwater structures, the evidence of vanished fleets. Everything pointed to the same impossible conclusion. Something ancient and powerful had claimed the Sol system, and humanity lived under its protection. Counselor Vrek spoke first. His crystalline form pulsed with agitated colors. For millions of years, his species had survived by being cautious, by hiding from threats, by never drawing attention. These humans had done the opposite, and somehow survived. More than survived, They had turned their vulnerability into a weapon that eliminated the galaxy's most dangerous civilizations. The debate lasted for days. Some council members wanted to quarantine the Sol system immediately, declare it forbidden territory, warn all spacefaring civilizations to avoid it. Others argued for the opposite. If Earth's trap was eliminating aggressive species, perhaps the Council should help maintain it, direct hostile civilizations toward Earth, and let the Precursors' defenses handle the problem. A third faction demanded more information. They needed to understand what the Precursors actually were, what they wanted, why they protected humanity. Dr. Velen supported this position. Making decisions based on incomplete information had destroyed civilizations before. They needed facts. Commander Thalrix proposed a solution. Send a scientific expedition to study the precursor artifacts more closely. But this time, do it with humanity's cooperation. Offer to share the Council's knowledge in exchange for access to what humans had learned. Build trust instead of operating in secret. The proposal gained support. Analyst Hyjin volunteered to lead the scientific team. She had studied the patterns in humanity's broadcasts. She understood the layers of information hidden in their messages. If anyone could decode the Precursor's purpose, it would be her. The expedition returned to Earth 3 cycles later. This time, there was no military escort. Just a small science vessel carrying a team of the Council's best researchers. Minister Giwan welcomed them personally. The humans had agreed to full cooperation. All data about the precursor artifacts would be shared. All discovery sites would be open to Council scientists. Dr. Suman gave them access to everything. The underwater structures, the Antarctic installations, the artifacts recovered from Mars, even the sites on Europa that human technology could barely reach. The Council scientists worked alongside human researchers, comparing data, running tests, trying to understand technology that was millions of years beyond either civilization. Hyjin focused on the patterns. The precursor structures weren't randomly placed. They formed a network throughout the solar system. Each installation connected to the others through quantum entanglement. Information flowed between them instantly, creating a distributed intelligence that monitored everything happening in the Sol system. The defensive systems worked through a principle human and Council scientists could barely comprehend. The precursors had learned to manipulate probability itself. When a hostile fleet entered the system, the installations didn't destroy the ships. They simply made the probability of the ships continuing to exist approach zero. The fleets didn't explode. They didn't collapse. They just stopped being real. General Taijun shared classified military data with the Council team. Human forces had tried to study the defensive systems in action. They had sent probes with hostile AI programming toward Earth to see what would happen. The results were consistent and terrifying. Once a hostile intent crossed a certain boundary, approximately at the orbit of Neptune, the object ceased to exist. No energy discharge. No visible weapon. Reality simply edited out the threat, but peaceful intentions passed through safely. The Council's diplomatic vessel had approached Earth without incident. Meteorites and comets showed no signs of being affected. The defensive system distinguished between natural objects, peaceful visitors, and hostile threats. The discrimination was perfect. Nothing with violent intent toward Earth had ever reached the planet. Hyjin made a breakthrough. She had been analyzing the information structures inside the artifacts. The patterns were complex, but they followed certain rules. After weeks of work, she managed to decode a small portion of the data. What she found changed everything. The precursors had been builders, not conquerors or warriors, but architects and gardeners. They had traveled the galaxy creating safe zones, protected spaces where developing civilizations could evolve without interference. Earth wasn't unique. There were others. Dozens of worlds scattered across the galaxy, each protected by similar networks of installations, but Earth was special in one way. Most protected worlds developed slowly, their species never learning about the protection until they reached advanced stages. Humanity had discovered the truth early. They had found the artifacts while still confined to their own planet, and they had made a choice. Dr. Suman showed Haijin the human decision-making records. Once Earth's leaders understood they were protected, they faced options. Try to use the protections selfishly. Hide behind the precursor's defenses and ignore the galaxy. Or accept responsibility. They chose responsibility. The broadcasts were humanity's way of contributing to the precursor's design. If these ancient builders wanted to protect developing civilizations from predators, then humanity would help identify those predators. The broadcasts attracted hostile species, drew them toward Earth, and the precursor's defenses removed them from the galaxy permanently. It was a partnership. Humanity provided the bait. The precursors provided the trap. Together, they made the galaxy safer for peaceful civilizations. Every aggressive empire that answered Earth's invitation was one less threat to other developing worlds. Counselor Vrex traveled to Earth. Personally, after reviewing Hijin's findings, he met with Minister Juan in private. His species had survived for millions of years by hiding, by being careful, by never taking risks. But that survival had come at a cost. They had never grown, never contributed, never become anything more than victims who successfully ran away. Giwan listened as Vrex explained his people's history, the fear that had defined their civilization for eons, the lost opportunities, the stagnation. She understood. Humanity had faced a similar choice: hide or engage, run or stand. They had chosen to stand. Even knowing they were still too weak to defend themselves without help, Vrex asked what humans wanted from the galaxy, what their goals were now that they knew they were protected. G1's answer was simple. They wanted to meet their neighbors, learn from other civilizations, share what they had learned. Eventually, when they were strong enough, protect others the way the precursors had protected them. They didn't want to rule or conquer. They wanted to be part of something larger than themselves. The Council made its decision. Earth would become a protected ally. The broadcasts would continue, but now with the Council's support. Together, they would identify hostile civilizations and guide them toward the Sol system. The trap would continue to operate. But now, with both human and Council cooperation, more than that, the Council would help humanity understand the precursor technology, share knowledge, speed up human development, because eventually the precursors would be gone. Their installations couldn't last forever. And when that day came, someone needed to carry on their work. Someone needed to protect the developing civilizations that would come after. Humanity agreed. They would learn. They would grow. And someday, they would become protectors instead of protected. The broadcasts continued. Radio waves carrying human music, greetings, and carefully encoded tactical information spread through the galaxy. To peaceful civilizations, they were invitations to friendship. Two hostile empires, they looked like an easy target. A vulnerable world advertising its location. The trap remained active. Aggressive civilizations continued to detect Earth's signals, continued to see an apparently defenseless world, continued to send their fleets, and those fleets continued to vanish at the edge of the Sol system, edited out of reality by technology that predated their civilizations by millions of years. But now, humanity wasn't alone in maintaining the filter. Council ships monitored galactic communications, identifying species that showed concerning levels of aggression. Those species somehow received stronger signals from Earth. Their interest was piqued. Their greed was activated. And they made the fatal decision to answer humanity's invitation. Analyst Hijin remained on Earth, working with Dr. Sumin to decode more of the precursor data. They had barely scratched the surface. The artifacts contained libraries of information about the galaxy's history, about civilizations that had risen and fallen, about threats that existed beyond the Council's knowledge, about the precursors themselves, and why they had chosen to protect certain worlds. General, Taijin trained with Council military forces, sharing human tactics and learning alien strategies, preparing for the day when humanity would need to defend itself without ancient technology. That day was coming. The precursor installations showed signs of degradation. They had functioned for millions of years, but nothing lasted forever.